Hello, good day to you all. Today, with a team of 3 from Accra Technical University, we're presenting on digital supply chain transformation. We're going to be talking about Industry 4.0. Industry 4.0 creates a disruptive and requires companies to rethink through their processes by adopting this disruptive technology that would help them to monitor their factories, monitor their industries from a distance, and also get more data by using Internet of Things, using these disruptive technologies that we're having. And we're going to be talking about everything that will help such industries to transit from traditional supply chain system to a digital supply chain system. So from here, we're going to be looking at what supply chain itself means. Supply chain itself, it simply can be explained as the acquisition of raw materials and also producing a final product and making it available to a customer. And with this particular one, it shows us, with this particular diagram, it shows us the processes or the parties involved in supply chain. So this is where the supplier acquires the raw material, make it available to the manufacturer, and also the manufacturer come up with a finished product. With this particular finished product, he now distribute it. It's now being sent over either by land, by air to the retailer, and the retailer makes it available to the customer. So this is the process that is involved in supply chain. From here, we're going to be talking about the traditional supply chain. With the traditional supply chain, it's kind of rigid. It's not kind of robust like we're talking about digital supply chain. It's having information flowing upstream to the manufacturer, and also the product or the material flows downstream to the customer. So with this particular diagram that we have here, the supplier makes the raw material available for the manufacturer, and the manufacturer also produces a finished product where he makes it available to the wholesaler. The wholesaler also gets it to the retailer, and the retailer gets it to the customer. That is how the product gets down to the customer. It passes through these chains, and information, for instance, after the customer have had access to the product, he gives review of the product about how there is probably changes that have to be made to the product. So that particular information then climbs up to the top. So the customer tells the retailer, and the retailer then passes on the information to the wholesaler, and the wholesaler also passes on the information to the manufacturer and says that the customers are complaining about this portion of the products that it have to be modified this way. So it takes time to get such a review to the manufacturer. So this is what it is when it comes to traditional supply chain management. From there, we look at the digital supply chain system. With the digital supply chain system, it's a system that makes information flow so easy, and it's in a web form. This is where the raw material gets to the manufacturer, everything processed down to the customer. But then the customer is able to link up with the manufacturer in case of reviews. The customer or the manufacturer is also capable of connecting to the retailers so that they share information by the help of internet. So it helps circulate information so easily, and it ensures customer value unlike the traditional system. It makes things much more easier for the customer. And we're looking at disruptive technologies that will enable us to transit an industry from a traditional state to a digital state. And these are the various disruptive technologies that are being used to transit or make this form of chain. We have blockchain, we also have Internet of Things, we have robotic process automation, we also have artificial intelligence, and finally we have predictive analysis. With a blockchain, it's comprised of parties that are involved in the transaction. So parties involved in the transaction are having records of the transaction that has taken place, being stored on their machine, whether being a mobile phone, a laptop, a computer. You all have access to the data of the transaction that has gone on between any of the parties involved. So with this particular one, it comes up with a lot of advantages. It is transparent, it is secure, it ensures security, and it prevents fraudulent, it prevents scam. Let's look at the importance of blockchain in industries or in manufacturing industries. It ensures mutability. Mutability is simply talking about data or transaction data that is in this process. It is a data that cannot be modified by anyone. So it ensures mutability. It says data once stored cannot be modified or altered. And also it ensures transparency. It offers transparency so that businesses can track every detail of their system. And also it ensures efficiency. It ensures traceability, and it is very secure. That's what we're talking about. And with its security, it utilizes a high level of cryptography, algorithms, and methods to ensure very high security so that fraudulent acts, hacking do not really come in this case. We also look at Internet of Things. With Internet of Things, I would now invite my co-partner here in this presentation to take over from this place.
Talking of the first disruptive technology, which is Internet of Things. Internet of Things helps in the visibility of the supply chain. That is the general function of the Internet of Things in the digital supply chain technologies. Let's look at some of the importance of IoT or Internet of Things in the manufacturing industry. It enhances schedule maintenance, which helps in the planning and then predictive maintenance in the industry. The next one is inventory. Inventory where products are tracked, including suppliers, for future manufacturing. Alright. It also enhances local tracking, which is location of shipments, and it also ensures that quality of goods from the manufacturing units to the time it reaches the destination. Talking of the next disruptive technology, which is robotic process automation. Robotic process automation helps in making faster decisions in the manufacturing industry. Here it can be applied in the ordering and processing and payment. It can also be applied in shipment scheduling and tracking. It can also be applied in invoicing, and then it continues down to customer service. Artificial intelligence, which is making machine function like human. What is its implementation in manufacturing industry? Artificial intelligence helps in making inspection. That is, it enhances demand forecasting. When you talk of demand forecasting, it means knowing what the customer is in need of in the future. It also enhances visualization, that is inspection. One can identify images and then appropriate correction of data in the manufacturing industry. So AI combines some kind of technologies, which is the supervised learning, unsupervised learning, and then the reinforcement learning. So the supervised learning will help us detect fraud. The unsupervised learning also helps in diverse manner. And then the reinforcement learning also helps for performance in the supply chain. It also facilitates real-time decision, which is the reinforcement learning. When you talk of AI powered visual inspection, that's what I already talked about. That is, it collects data that is of the shipment, data of the shipments. So what are its rules? I've already made mention of some, which is AI provide insight to enhance supply chain management productivity. It's also capable of analyzing large volumes of data for forecasting accuracy. Okay, let's come to the proposed strategy for transiting from traditional supply chain to digital supply chain. Now, before this strategy will be implemented in a manufacturing industry, you must first know their challenges. One of the challenges they encounter is how to start with the digital supply chain, and then how to get data in order to make this machine learn from with the help of AI. So first, there should be an internal understanding or agreement of the topic or of the technology you want to implement. Now, if there is understanding, then the next step is to entail competence matching. Competence matching means looking at the strength of the technology and then compare it to the situation in which you are now, and then you weigh them to look at the advantages it has on the traditional, let's say the traditional supply chain. Okay, so from that, after the competence matching, one can now implement the technology into the system. But I already did mention that how to get the data is one of the problems this manufacturing industry encounter, because we already know that AI, for instance, machine learning, you need to collect the data, analyze the whole data, filter it, and then implement it or use it to train the whole machine for it to work in the manufacturing industry, because it learns from this data. Alright, so one way to get the data is we get the data from ERP systems. Or we install sensors on companies' production machine. So after installing these sensors, it will gather all this information or data into a platform. So in manufacturing sectors, we focus on making data available. As I said, we make data available, and then we integrate planning with suppliers and then customers. So in conclusion, the benefits of these disruptive technologies are: one, it enhances visual inspection. Two, it also makes decisions faster, and it also helps in good communication.